I want to tell you a story. In the sweltering heat of Sydney, Australia in September of 2000, an Olympic wrestler named Alexander Karelin, the indomitable Russian bear, that's how he was known, he stepped onto the mat. Karelin was a 3-time Olympic gold medalist. He had a 13-year unbeaten streak, and 6 years, no one has scored even 1 point on him. He towered at 287 pounds, unyielding muscle and will, ready to claim his 4th Olympic gold medal. He was famous for his reverse body lift. They renamed it after him, the Karelin lift, because he would just toss other world champions onto their head. He was the most feared man on the mat in this sport. Most opponents were defeated before they even arrived there. It wasn't just that he didn't lose, it's how he won. He would pick the best of the best of the best of another nation up and toss them. He thoroughly embarrassed the greatest athletes of other nations. On this day, Karelin stood on the brink of wrestling immortality. If he wins this one last match, it means 4 Olympic gold medals, a feat that no one could reproduce. He had only to win this last one, and his legacy would be cemented. He had bulldozed his way through the bracket. He had made his way, and it was like a hot butter. It was like a hot knife through warm butter. Leave the jokes, I got so many, okay. He went through the entire bracket like it was nothing. And one remaining sacrifice remained. And across from him was this baby-faced kid named Rulon Gardner, an unranked American farm boy from rural Wyoming. He was the youngest of 9 siblings. He was raised doing chores, milking cows, wrestling older brothers in the barn. He didn't carry the weight of a nation's hopes upon his shoulders because there was none. No one thought this unranked, unknown American could ever defeat the Russian bear. Rulon was the sacrificial lamb between Karelin and glory. This match was a foregone conclusion. I watched it this week, and again, I listened to the announcers try to make a dramatic moment where there is none. Oh, if Rulon can do something here, it would be the miracle on the mat, kind of like the miracle on the ice. They tried to work it up, but everybody knew. Everyone knew. On one side was this unranked, untested, somehow making it to the gold medal match, Rulon Gardner. He should be happy just to be here. And across from him, scowling, was the beast of the sport. No one had scored on him in this Olympic run, in the last Olympic run. In 6 years, the match was already over. People had already crowned him. And the announcers, they were there getting everybody ready, and the match began. And for 9 minutes, Karelin's legacy, his legendary lifts, his throws, everything he could do tested Rulon Gardner. But somehow, the American held strong. And at one point, no one knew how this underdog did the unthinkable. He scored 1 solitary point on the Russian bear. And the match was 1-0. And at this point, all Rulon had to do was hold strong in the face of the world champion. And as the final seconds ticked away, the announcers, the crowd, everyone was shocked as this Wyoming farm boy did the unimaginable, the unthinkable, and defeated the Russian bear at his crowning moment. He proved something that day, Rulon did, that quiet faith and gritty endurance can topple even the most mighty. I mean, we love a good David and Goliath story, don't we? Don't we love it? Like, we root for the underdogs. We love the underdog. We love the little montages before the match, before the event. We cry at the Olympics when we see, oh, they came from nothing and look. Like, we love an underdog. And today, we are going to look at the OG underdog. We're going to look at David versus Goliath as we are in the Life of David series for the fall. I want to set the stage for you. Perhaps this is your first time here at this church, maybe at any church for a long time. David is a shepherd. He's probably 14 or 15. We don't know for sure, but he's not old enough to go to war. He's the shepherd, the youngest little brother of the family. And his daddy sent him on an errand to go bring food to his older brothers who were at a battle where there's a war between David's nation and the Philistines. And the Philistines had a champion. Champion, the word means the man between, because the champion would walk out on the ground between the battles. And Goliath was the champion. He towered over everybody. Goliath had defeated nation after nation, and the Philistines, they did it this way. Listen, we can all fight and a lot of people can die, or our champion can face your champion. And whoever wins that one battle, the others just become the slaves. So the entire nations are on the line here. If your champion wins, we all become your slaves. Everything we are. Our houses, our resources, the wives, the children, everything changes for David's people. And Goliath had defeated champion after champion. And he shows up and taunts them over and over. He comes out of the battlefield and says, who are you gonna send out? Who's gonna come? And King Saul of David's nation, he stood head and shoulders above his people. He had the best armor, the best weapons, but not even he would go out. No one wanted to face Goliath. It says they shook and they cowered in their battle lines. David can't believe this is happening. He shows up to deliver cheese and bread, and he goes, why is this man allowed to taunt the armies of God? Why can he talk about God this way? Someone go out there and deal with this giant. And David gets before King Saul, who wants to hear why one person has confidence when everybody else has cowardice. He says, how could you do this? Why do you think you could win? And David again says, hey, I've been watching my dad's sheep. And when a lion comes to attack the sheep, I grab that lion by the beard and I strike it. The Lord gives me strength to defeat the lion and the bear, and the Lord will give me strength to defeat this giant. Saul has no other option. No one else wants to go out. Saul has promised his daughter in marriage. He's like, I'll give you anything. You can become a prince in my nation, wealth, position, power, anyone, and no one wants to go out there and sacrifice themselves. And David goes, I got this. A kid of 14 years old. And Saul finally says, all right, go ahead, and may the Lord be with you. Of course the Lord would be with you, because you're a youth, you're a shepherd versus a killing machine. And then it says this in verse 38, Saul gave David his own armor. David puts it on, a bronze helmet, a coat of mail, the finest they had. David put it on, he strapped a sword over it. Now Saul's a tall person. I bet the sword, I bet everything kind of hung really low. I bet it was all so heavy. David, it said, he took a step or two to see what it was like. He's like, what? He had never worn such things. I cannot go in these, he said. He protested. I'm not used to this, and so he took them off. David rejected the best that the kingdom had to offer. And what does he do instead? Verse 40. David picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream, and he put them into his shepherd's bag. This top-level equipment, shepherd's bag. 5 stones. And then, armed only with a staff and a sling, he started across the valley to fight the Philistine. Now you have to catch the drama of this. We know the story. You might have heard the story, but you have to realize if you're there in the crowd watching, however this goes changes your entire trajectory, changes your children's life, your generations beyond you life, could end your life. This right here, this moment, whoever faces Goliath better be the greatest you have to give you a fighting chance, or you're a slave. And the person that the king sends out is a shepherd in shepherd's clothing with a bag, 5 rocks and a staff and a sling. Now, it says he had 5 smooth stones in his staff. Now, did you ever wonder why he had 5 smooth stones? You're like, I know why. When I go hunting, I take a clip of 5 bullets because I might miss the first time. Maybe David was just preparing to miss Goliath 4 times, but I got that 5th stone in there. I want to tell you, actually, David grabbing 5 smooth stones is such an act of faith. He's not getting extra rocks in case he misses. In 1 Samuel 21, it says that Goliath isn't the only champion that the Philistines have. He has 4 others, and some are his brothers, making 5 giant champions. And David, in faith, figures, well, if I go out there and when I defeat the first one, they might not like that, and the others might come out, and I better be prepared to take them out as well. If there's 5 champions, let's go. 5 stones for 5 giants. Talk about confidence in the Lord, right? Right? But more than just practical 5 stones, 5 giants, there's a poetic meaning here. There's places in the Bible where numbers have meaning, where a number has an implication, and the number 5 has a meaning. Now hold on. I'm not saying numbers have any power. Don't mistake this for any hidden codes or numerology or anything like I'm gonna start wearing the number 5 around. No, it's a narrative tool in a teaching structure to bring richness and things like 40 days and 40 nights, 40 years means a time of testing. 12 tribes, 12 nations, all these things again and again. They're not holy numbers, it's not mysticism. I wanna be clear, it's not numerology. It's a narrative tool. And God is the author who will often bring these out through his writers to add a richness to it. And so where does 5 appear in the Bible? And you're like, oh, I know all the places, right? Can you think of one? There's a repetitive nature to the number 5 in narrative that symbolizes something. 5 is often a pattern that God writes into the story where human weakness is met with God's power. Multiple places. And most often, it's a narrative reinforcement where humanity brings their best offering and God brings his strength and grace on it. Examples, 5 Old Testament sacrifices in Leviticus, bringing your best forward. 5 loaves fed 5,000. You bring your small offering and watch what God does. What it says. Catch this, most often, God's grace brings the victory in our weakness. 5 stones. David brought the best offering he humanly had. Let's be honest, was it enough to win? No. Could 5 stones win national battles? No. No more than 5 loaves can feed 5,000 people. No. But God's strength is made known in our weakness. David brings what he has, and he trusts God in it to bring what God has. David knows by the simple fact he brought rocks to a spear fight that he needs God. But David brings his offering, and God's gonna do what David could never do. Here's the application. You bring what you have, that's your faith, your surrender, and your obedience. And God will do in you and through you what you cannot do on your own. It sounds so easy, right? Oh yeah, I'm gonna surrender to God. Oh, get in a difficult situation. And what do? We put on Saul's armor. I'm putting on the best I can find for anything, and I'm waddling out to fight my battles with the best and all the things I can get in humanity's strength. David in Saul's armor was no more equipped to defeat a giant than without it. But I will find myself waddling around in Saul's armor in battles I cannot win in my power. I come loaded. I'm bringing everything I have to a losing battle. Why? Because in my weakness, I'm tempted to trust my greatest skills. They're not enough. In my weakness, I'm tempted to trust others' best advice. I'm in my weakness, I'm gonna go put on Saul's armor of willpower and really win this battle. How's that working out for us? How's that working out for you? Instead, like David, we should bring a heart that trusts God to the battle. We should bring obedience and surrender to step forward when he asks, knowing that only he can win this. And no amount of armor or swords or resources. No. 5 stones is knowing I bring my obedience and surrender and weakness, and God brings the power and the grace needed. 2 Corinthians 12, Paul is talking about this. And God tells Paul this sentence, Paul, my grace is all you need in your struggles. My power works best in your what? My power works best in your what? In your what? Introverts. You almost said it. Paul continues. So I, Paul, now I boast about my weakness. We used to cover it up and posture, try to get around it, but now I boast in my weakness so that the power of Jesus can work through me. He says, that's why I take pleasure in my weakness and in insults and in hardships and in persecutions and in difficult circumstances and troubles that I suffer. For when I am weak, I am strong. David knew this. David knew he was weak. David it wasn't his strength that was going to fight this. It was God. So he stepped out in trust, in weakness, and in faith. Let me be clear. It isn't your best efforts or your strength and willpower that's going to win your private and biggest battles in life. But we know that, don't we? Because it hasn't worked out for us. It's his strength in our weakness. And I want to tell you something. This is wonderful news. I'm so glad this is true. Because it means that God working through us, he isn't like looking around, where's the most self-confident, most skilled son or daughter that I could use? Like if I can find someone with exceptional skills, maybe I can do something in this world. Like if I just find somebody who has it all together, we could really have a revival. No, he's not looking for those things. So when God asks you to step out in faith, it likely won't be in a place where you're 100% confident or competent. Have you noticed this? It wouldn't be stepping out of faith if you were 100% competent and confident. It's stepping out of a boat for a reason. It's stepping out to fight Goliath for a reason. I don't know if I have what it takes. You don't. It means when God asks you to step out and trust him in faith in an area, you don't wait until you feel peace or feel confident, because if you do, you'll never step out. I'm just waiting for God to solve it in here. No, don't wait for your confidence to convince you. May our faith in God be stronger than our natural confidence and in any human assurance. Like when God asked you to maybe speak out to somebody about your life, about your testimony. If God asked you to maybe just invite someone, we don't wait till we feel confident. You know why? Because we'll never say anything. We bring our faith in the fear, and he does what we can't do. We step in with obedience. When God asks you to speak out and tell your story or invite somebody or talk about your faith, listen, Saul's armor is wanting all the answers. Oh, I just wish I had a seminary degree. I just wish I had a breastplate. I just wish I had a helmet. I wish I had Saul's armor. Then I'd be really certain I could step out on this battlefield. No. Listen, we wait for Saul's armor, but God wants us to bring rocks. He wants us to bring our authentic self. That's what David had. Listen, this is what I fight with. This is who I am. This is what I've trained with. God, I'm going to bring me, and I'm going to surrender it to you. God's like, well, then I'm going to bring me. We trust God in our weakness. When God asks us to step out and start resourcing the ministry here, we do so in faith, bringing what we have to trust him. When God asks us to fight the giants maybe in our private life or step up publicly and trust him, he's not waiting until you read enough self-help books. He's not waiting until you log enough mindfulness hours. He's not waiting until you participate in enough willpower strengthening exercises, because giants of this magnitude in our private life and our public life don't fall from human power and effort. If they did, we would all be good. Giants of our life don't fall by our skill. They fall by trusting in the strength of the Lord. In our weakness, he is strongest. So bring your weakness and bring your trust. Step out in surrender. Step out in obedience. Instead of shining your armor, gather your stones. And don't conjure up your self-reliance. Lean into your faith. God, I need you here. The battle is his. And we win it in our dependence and our weakness, not our independence and strength. That giant that owns you privately, has your strength, has your greatest efforts like won that area for you long term? Maybe your willpower maybe your Saul's armor can hold it for a little bit, but how's it going for you? You see, giant slaying requires people who trust God and who know where the strength comes from. Back to 1 Samuel 17. David picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream, put them into his shepherd's bag, armed himself with a shepherd's staff and sling, and he starts across the valley to fight the giant. Now this part. In a culture of cowardice where everybody is shrinking back, everyone looks the same, everyone's in this together, do you know when David stands out? The moment he steps out. And you have to put yourself in this place. You're there with your families. You're there with everything on the line. There's Goliath taunting you. He's making fun of everything that you stand for and live for, and everyone is shrinking back, and suddenly you see someone step out of the line. Who is it? Who did Saul send? Oh, it must be a messenger boy. They must be sending a messenger out to the giant to deliver something. Surely this is not who we are sending as our best. David steps out of anonymity when he chooses to obey. For some of us, this is terrifying because we just want to blend into the culture. Even if I'm confident in the Lord, I don't want to stand out. I'm just going to be right here. But sometimes God's going to ask you to stand out. He's going to ask you to step out at work, at home, in your recreation, in your character, and how you live, and what you choose to do or choose not to do. I'm going to step out in obedience, and it's going to be noticeable. Goliath, like all of our private enemies and public enemies, he immediately resorts to his first tactic, taunting. Verse 41. When Goliath saw this with his shield bearer, this trained team in front of him, he moved toward David. Ooh, he goes, yeah, here we go. Here we go. He starts moving forward. It says this, he looked David over. Wait a second. Now he's used to seeing the champions. He looked David over and saw he was little more than a boy, glowing with health, and he had fair, his skin was young and youthful, he was handsome, and it says Goliath despised him. Of course he does. He wants another giant. He wants the best of the. What do they think they're doing? Is this a joke? And he said to David, am I a dog that you come at me with sticks? The Philistine cursed David, cursed him by all his gods. Come here, he roars, and I'll give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals. He's playing the part. He's yelling to everybody. And you got to imagine David's army is like, what are we doing? Abort. Abort. But now David's committed. He's stepped up. He has obeyed and he's stepped forward. He's been noticed by the enemy and he's been noticed by all the people. Listen to his response. Verse 45. You come at me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of Yahweh. He makes the point, listen, you have the weapons of war that you trust in. I come with what I trust in, and it's far greater. You see, David knew this wasn't a fair fight, but he was the only one that knew the odds. Goliath may have had the greatest earthly power of the world and the culture, but it's not a fair fight. And David makes it clear. Verse 46, today my God will conquer you. Could you imagine being there and seeing the ridiculousness of this situation and seeing a youth with a shepherd's bag and a staff yell that at a killing machine? But David didn't say, I'm gonna conquer you. I got this. No, my sling I'm accurate. I fought lions, I fought bears. My abilities, my strength. No. He's gonna conquer you. David knows this battle is not his. He knows I just bring my obedience and my surrender, and he's gonna conquer you. David continues declaring this. Today my God will conquer you, and everyone here will know that the Lord rescues his people. But not with sword, not with spear. This is the Lord's battle. And if you're with us and last week I handed out dry erase markers for you to write on your mirror to start getting things in front of you in the morning, this is what you write. This is the Lord's battle. Because some of you are in places right now in way over your heads facing Goliaths, and you're wondering, how can I fight this? This is the Lord's battle. Surrender. This is the Lord's battle. Surrender. All I need to do is surrender and obey. I don't have to go out there and just start hacking away in a battle I can't win. This is the Lord's battle. God doesn't rescue with sword or spear, not with human might, but he does work through his people. He does work through his sons and daughters who step out in obedience and surrender to him. And he's about to prove through this young boy who has faith that the greatest warrior couldn't stand against him. David's declaration of faith and his trust in God, Goliath moves to his second. First it was taunting, now it's intimidation. Goliath heard that and moved closer to attack. Oof. You got to see this. Goliath roaring, David responds in confident defiance in the name of Yahweh. And Goliath was not expected. Listen, he has been on this field. Every single person across from him is wringing their hands, kind of shaking with their sword. Their armor is rattling. And here is this kid who has the nerve to tell them that this is the end, that he's going to beat him. Are you kidding me? Goliath is angry. He has owned this field between two armies, battle after battle. And this boy dares say he's going to defeat me? So it says he moves toward him. He's ready. He's going to make an example today. He's going to show whatever this farce of a plan is. Listen, we're going to end this really quick and very obviously. Now imagine David. You're now committed. You're out there. And not only that, but you have spoke confidence in faith. Did he speak in his own confidence? He spoke faith. The Lord will win today. The nation is watching. There goes Goliath. As Goliath steps forward, it says the tip of his spear, the spearhead is 15 pounds, and the spear shaft is a weaver's beam thick. And this is his long-range missile. His breastplate weighs 125 pounds. David, around 14 or so, with genetics of the people of that location and time, is most likely 110 pounds-ish. 115 with some stones in his pocket. He could have wore David like a breastplate. The killing machine, angry, steps forward. What's David's response? This is my favorite line, and it gets me every time. What does faith in God look like in the face of the cultural giants, in the face of private giants, in the face of things that defy God? It says this. David ran quickly out to meet Goliath. I'm sitting there thinking about this, and David, let's go. Let's go. And David goes, let's do this. You're moving toward me? It's sprint, the word sprint. David sprints toward the Goliath. David is on purpose. He's in faith. He knows his weaknesses. It's very obvious, but he is armed to the teeth with trust. And he has the weapons of war of faith. When the world shrinks back, you can run in faith. When the world shrinks back, you can step forward and trust. When human effort has failed, but God calls you forward in purpose, you can face your giants, but not shivering. You can run at them. The battle isn't yours, it's his. You are called to step up, step out, stand out, declare your faith, and move forward. Faith fuels your fight. You see, here it is. The entire nation is frozen in fear, but David's faith is fueled by that fire of trust in the God who's fighting for his people. You ready? Let's go. And he runs. This is trust over terror. This is faith over fear. This is trusting God at his word over the media. This is trusting the Holy Spirit over the culture. This right here is our God over any Goliath. And back to the story, the young man with a stick and a sling is running towards a giant. It says, reaching into his bag and taking out a stone, he hurls it and slings it. And it hits Goliath in the forehead. And the stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled and fell face down on the ground. Can you imagine this? You're sitting there watching this shepherd boy go forward. You're about to be a slave. You know how this is terrible. And he pulls out his little toy sling, and he whirls it around, and he releases does he have rocks? He has rocks. And he slings the rock, and it hits the giant. You hear the thud, and that pause comes over both sides. And Goliath falls. And then the second pause. They're slack-jawed, we're slack-jawed. And suddenly a roar goes up of David's. They've watched somebody step forward in faith, declare God's victory, and take it, and a roar of confidence comes up, and they charge the battlefield because one person stood in faith while the nation shrunk back in fear, and it changed everything. One person stood against the powers of the culture and the world, and by trusting God, they defeated the champion of evil. This is still true. This is still available to us. That one person stepping out in faith can change life. One person stepping out in surrender and obedience can find freedom in places of vice and defeat and shame and addictions of Goliath. One person standing in faith can change a private life and a character where selfishness and vice and dysfunction have reigned. One person trusting in God's battle can change the course of a life. In fact, defeating a family giant that had owned generation after generation before them. You can say, enough. One person can change. There's power in one when the one trusts in God. You see, one dad stepping out in faith can model for his children what it looks like to be a man of character, to stand against the giants of lust and pornography and evil and the vices of this culture. One dad can model what a godly man looks like for his family and kids, to prioritize God and church in the busyness of this culture. One mom can step into battle and show her family strength and faith and what it looks like when the world is cruel and breaks them. One wife can stand for truth in a culture that dares her to give into the pressure. One students, this could be you. One student standing in faith at their school can spark a revival in that school. It could be you to stand out, to step up, to speak out and run like David. One woman who rushes toward her Goliath instead of shrinking back can inspire change that moves her friends to come to Jesus. One man running toward the giants instead of hiding in his shame can set a fire of revival in his friends. One person standing against the giants of this culture can show the world that goodness and truth will prevail over evil and darkness. One matters, and one church stepping into boldness to speak the truth and to love like Jesus in a culture that's polarized by hate and tolerance of sin can shine so brightly that all who are lost and any who are needy and all who are hurting will see the light and glory of Jesus and be drawn to God. The one still matters. One surrendered, bold church can change a city, can change a region, because the battle belongs to the Lord. And one person can spark a revival in their family, in their office, wherever they are, because the battle is the Lord's. He's waiting for his sons and daughters who will bring their weakness and surrender and say, you want me to step out? I don't feel confident, and I don't have the armor that I think I need, but you're with me. You can make a difference. You bring your weakness and trust to God, and you see what he does. You see what he's gonna do in you and through you. You see, there's power when we stop worrying about the culture and people around us. when we just work to fit in with all those who are afraid to step out and stand out. There's power in this, and realize that the one matters because the one is truly our God. And that's who we step out for, and in his power. He's calling us to step forward like David on public places and public fields, in private places, in character and holiness. He's calling you. He still calls, step out, my son, step out, my daughter, to step forward like a shepherd boy, and in faith and in confidence in him, sprint toward the enemy. So what giant, what Goliath stands in your life? For some of you, it's a circumstance. You're facing that diagnosis. You're facing that huge challenge. What is it that's defeated you and mocked you? What is it that has owned you? What addiction in your private life? What in your past, with the weapons of shame and dysfunction, taunts you? What present anxiety just declares your weakness? What rage and bitterness and anger owns you? What giant of debt or divorce or dysfunction, diagnosis? I want you to do something today. I want you to name it. I want you to name it. It taunts you. It beats you. It looms over your life. Is it a diagnosis? Name it. Is it lust? Name it. Is it dysfunction? What is it? What Goliath in your life? Is God asking you to step out publicly somewhere, and it's fear, it's lack of faith? Name it. I want you to hear this next part, because this changes everything for us. Because we each have our Goliath. We each have those places. You see, they're in the battlefield of humanity, all of us. Sin has always been the enemy that towers over us, and death. Sin and death taunt us. They're unbeatable in human effort. You cannot conquer death. You cannot defeat sin. And time again, throughout history, sin and death stood against humanity, victorious and undefeated. And we cowered in the shadow of death. No matter how strong in life, when death arrives, we cower. We cower in the face of sin, who in our private lives remains unbeaten. Who will fight me? Sin declares in your life. Are you gonna get enough willpower this time? Are you really gonna give it a go? Who will fight me? Death declares. I own you. You're just delaying the inevitable. And we as humanity, we cowered. We wondered who would stand. And a champion emerged. Someone stepped out of the lines and ranks of cowering humanity and walked on the battlefield. Armed not in gleaming armor and swords, but with nails and wood. Jesus, our champion, walked forward where no human could tread. And he stood facing sin and death with life and truth in his hands. And where everyone had fallen before him, Jesus ran toward the giant with the sling and the staff of salvation and redemption. And he slayed death. He snatched the victory away from that which we fear most, the end. And he declared that because of me and my victory, though you die, you will live eternally. And he announced that death does not get the final say in your life or your loved one's life anymore. And that through him, you can live a full life here and now, but not just death. Because he defeated that ancient selfishness of sin that has owned us. He smashed the power of sin. He slayed it, that we can live in freedom now and eternally. Jesus is our champion. Jesus defeated our greatest giant. Listen to this, 1 Corinthians 15:57. We thank you, God, because he gives us victory over sin and death through Jesus. So because of this, brothers and sisters, stand strong and immovable, Because the battle is already won. The giant is dead. That army right there, when David fell Goliath and they jumped up and cheered, that's how we should respond in worship. Our champion has defeated the enemy. And now we charge the battlefield. We don't fight for victory, we charge from victory. Because the word says, greater is he that is in us than he was in the world. We are more than conquerors. Colossians 2:13, God made us alive in Christ. He forgave all your sins, defeating sin. He canceled the record of charges, the sin against you, and he took it and he nailed it to a cross. In this very way, he disarmed the spiritual rulers and authorities, and he shamed them publicly on a public battlefield with his victory on the cross. He's our champion. Jesus is the greater David. And so what happens? Surrender and weakness. And here's how we end. I'm going late. We need to pray because you're fighting Goliath in your life. And when we go into this song, I want you to worship like people who just watched your champion defeat the enemy. And I want you to pray like people who just watched your Goliath fall. And I want you to come take communion back in your chair and take the element of his body and blood, the elements of victory. Ask forgiveness for your sin and thank him for his sacrifice. Let's worship. Let's praise our champion.